Okay, I think it went through. Yeah, this is my second attempt. The first one did not have audio, so that was fun. But at least I found out early. So, anyway, need to move that. So, as you can see by my little title card here, semester 3 is now over. Also, excuse the messy hair, I'm feeling very lazy today. So, yes, semester 3 is officially over. And we're in the interim currently between semesters. So it's been a bit of a wild ride since we last spoke, and I'll get you back up to speed on what I've had going on. So looking back, looks like my last video was April 27th. So what has changed since April 27th? Looks like that was a Sunday. So basically we had all but one of our finals. Oh man, it's messy. All but one of our finals. So we had our lab sim final, we had our lab written final, we took graduation photos, we took our anesthesia physiology final, our I&M final, and our pharmacology final. I&M, for those who don't know, it's I and M, so it's hang on, I'll write it out real quick. Ooh, my handwriting's awful. Hang on, let me fix that. It's literally just I and M. It stands for instrumentation and monitoring. It's basically where we learn how all the cool stuff works. So, alright, so I guess I'll just take this line by line without revealing anything super important, obviously, because it's not illegal, but it's, can't do it. So, to start out with, we had our lab written final. Lab finals, I feel like, are kind of, I don't want to say like it's hit or miss, but I just don't know how to study for them in all honesty. Main reason being is that's our only exam for that class, so I never know kind of what the expectations are for that. Um, but at the end of the day, just I kind of do my best on it, and that's all I can do. So I feel like I should have done a little bit better than I did, but I also studied the wrong stuff. So kind of is what it is. Got to live and learn. Maybe I can apply what I learned to the next exam and hopefully do a little bit better on that one. Still passed the course with no remediation, thankfully. Uh, just, the number on the screen made me sad. So, that was that. Still had clinicals going on between now and then. Had our simulation lab final. So, I don't know how much I can say. Here's the broad thing I can say. As you learn more in class, the patients get sicker and sicker on the final. So, whatever lab sim final 1 was, or 2, this is a step up. So, I don't think it's unfair to say that 1 is basic, 2 is a step up from basic, and then 3 is a step up from the step up. And I anticipate that semester 4 will be even further of a step up relative to this semester. So, yeah, I don't feel like I did the best on this one. The general format, which I can say what the general format is, you're given a patient profile, you're allowed to go into a waiting room, and you're given a period of time to look over the patient's health record. It's a made up patient. Look over the patient's health record, form an anesthesia plan, and then you go into the actual sim lab and execute that plan. Now, the thing is, you also will need to interview the patient, and during that interview process, you could discover something that changes your plan entirely, or you have to modify and things like that. So I'll say what I messed up on was I learned a couple things during the interview that I should have pursued further. And I'll try to leave it at that just to, avoid giving anything away that the program doesn't want to get out there. So, and each person does get a different profile. So if I'm going first, and then let's just say John is going second, me and John are going to get different people, and just kind of. But they do try to keep it in a similar vein, so it's not like I'm going to have a person who's getting. I don't know. Let's just pick something that's like the easiest case possible. Let's just say I'm not going to get somebody who's having a wart removed, and John is going to get someone who's having an aortic root transplant. They're going to be similar. A lap chole is similar to a lap appy, might be similar to, you get the idea. Patient profiles are all going to be the same difficulty, right? If you want to follow the ASA difficulty or the ASA patient health, if they're class 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 or 6, they're all going to be in that similar range. So, and yes, I know I'm floundering, but I don't want to give anything away that would bite me in the butt later. I don't want to have our program director watch this and say, oh, hey, you gave that away. I don't want to give anything away if possible. So that was that. I feel like I didn't do as good as I should have in the lead-ups. We do have little mocks that we do, and I feel like I did better in the mock than I did in the actual one. Now, whether that was by design or just by my performance, I don't know. I don't know if they saw my performance during the mock and said, okay, we'll turn up the heat a little bit. I don't know for sure. But I feel like I did better in the mock than I did in the actual. I still ended up passing, thankfully. But just, again, I wish I had done a little bit better, and I wish I had taken the cues that I saw, but for whatever reason, I just kind of ignored. Live and learn. I know what to do better for the next one. So at the end of the day, I passed the class, and that's all that matters. Patient survived the surgery, obviously, but, just little personal things. I hold myself to a very high standard, and because I didn't live up to my high standard, I'm a little bit ticked. But at the end of the day, I can work to improve it, and I will do so. So, had that. And then anesthesia phys final. This semester of anesthesia phys felt like a definite step up from the last one. He did say in class that the third semester of anesthesia phys will be a little bit easier. So looking forward to that and hoping that his assessment is accurate. He wouldn't lie to us about that, but sometimes difficulty is subjective. Like, I'm good at anesthesia phys, bad at pharm, and other people are good at pharm, bad at anesthesia phys. So hopefully his assessment is correct, because class is hard. That class is hard and very detail-oriented, but it has to be. I mean, if you're learning about a congenital heart defect, you have to understand what leads into that, what can result from that, how do you modify that, how do you treat that. It's something that you just have to know. And it's, kind of difficult, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, and we get through it. I&M final. Those ones are cumulative, which, it's a lot of slides to look at. It's a lot to go over. But I feel like if you have a good study plan going into that one, it's not too bad to break it up. I've always started studying a lot earlier than my classmates. And I think I've said this in the past, but let's just say the exam has 12 slide sets on it. I'll typically start studying about 14 days out, spend 1 day per slide set, and then spend the remaining days doing just review over like the entire thing. And when I say review, it basically means skimming and hitting the highlights and circling back to anything that didn't really make sense on the initial review date. Now that does mean I'm studying for longer, but it also means that I'm not spending 14 hours the night before studying and not getting any sleep. As a matter of fact, I talked to a preceptor, and they said that their study strategy was to procrastinate, and during their finals week, there was a period where they did not get sleep for 3 days straight, and they were fueled off of nothing but Monster, Red Bull, and coffee. And I would like to very much avoid doing that, because I would lose my mind if I was put in that position. So, I've gotten a full 8 hours of sleep every single finals week, and you can too, as long as you plan ahead and start studying with enough time to have that barrier and comfort level. Um, ugh, whatever. Hey, I promised you guys authentic, and I don't think it gets any more authentic than me just in a thrown on t shirt and messy hair. The farm final, again, farm is just a lot of material to review. It's, as you all know, it is historically my weakest subject, but I did do good on this one. I'm very happy with my performance, and I did end up passing the class. Very happy about that. Very, very, very happy about that. I struggle in that class. I could struggle in that class if the world's greatest anesthesiologist was teaching it. I am just bad at point blank memorization. I'm bad at, like, oh, what receptor does this do? I'm like, it's one of them. I don't know which. But I passed the class. Very thankful for that. And that was the last pharmacology for us. And I can't remember if that's the last I&M, but I think it is. I think it is the last I&M for us. So, yeah, pretty interesting stuff. A lot going on for that. Let's see. Anything left on the academic side? Oh yeah, we did take our graduation photos, which is pretty cool. I vividly remember taking my photos at the last white coat ceremony and kind of walking through that whole process. It's pretty interesting to be on the other side of it now. And we're already taking our graduation photos. And that does not mean I'm graduating soon. This is the last time we're all going to be on campus. Once August whatever hits, late August hits, my entire class is going to be scattered all over the country. And there will probably be pockets, like Atlanta might be a hot spot, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville will probably be like the hot spots. But there's rotation sites in a lot of states. So we're going to be all over the place. I think it'll be really cool. But that's why they have to go ahead and take the pictures now, because this is the last chance we're all going to have. So, pretty interesting stuff. And then, anything else major? Not too much. We haven't gotten our schedule for next semester. I don't know what classes we have officially or what day they'll be. I kind of know, like, which classes they are. I could look and find out. But it's like, there's an ultrasound course, there's professionalism, anesthesia phys, again, there's SLS again, the student-led lecture series. There's still clinicals, so, the main highlight stuff's still going to be there. No farm, that was the last farm. No I&M, that was the last I&M. And I think there's another APP, but I could be wrong on that one. I think there is. And then there's still going to be lab. Lab is the only course that you have all 4 semesters. Well, SLS, no? Was there SLS one? No, there was not. So yeah, it's really only lab that you have all 4 semesters. So, you're in those rooms a lot. What is this? Alright, I gotta pause real quick, just got a message. The joys of being the class president. You get messages about stuff that you gotta get to quick. So, glad I could see that out of my peripheral vision. So, I have no idea where I left off, I'll be honest with you. It was probably something rambly about the white coat and how it feels like, it hasn't been a year. Okay, we'll roll it. Or classes or something. Anyway. I'll talk about clinicals, and then I'll talk about the upcoming white coat ceremony and orientation. So if you are coming into the program soon, I will be seeing you soon, and I want to talk a little bit about that. So, let's get into it. Clinicals. So last one was the 27th. Okay, let's see what I've had going on. Now again, full HIPAA compliance. I'm barely going to say anything. I'm only going to say what I have done or watched or whatever. All right, but nothing that's like remotely close to patient health information. So, one of the days did a good bit of TEE stuff, which is basically an upper endoscopy where they stick a probe down and you look at what's going on in there. And it's a fairly generic procedure, so I feel comfortable saying what the procedure is. So in effect, all my job was to just, kind of give not an induction dose of propofol, but a dose of propofol that wouldn't tank the respiration rate while still providing adequate anesthesia. So that was pretty cool to get to do. It's one of the more by feel portions of the job, I would say. There is no exact metric for how to do it. At my previous clinical site, they handled those a little bit differently, in the sense of propofol was on a pump as opposed to hand bolusing. So doing these, it was definitely a bit of a culture shock, if you would, because there was no pump. You had to just do it by hand and by feel. So, all right, pause again. Got a response. 1 second. Okay, I'm back again. Again, same thing. So where was I? Oh yeah, the culture shock of doing a TEE or just the sedation type. So yeah, it was pretty interesting to have to hand give it. I feel like it was more of a you have to really pay attention to what's going on and duration of the case, because you don't want to give 30, 40 of propofol and then watch the scope come out. That not a fun position to be in, because you indirectly or directly kind of shot yourself in the foot in that case. But kind of is what it is. It was a fun learning experience. I ended up getting progressively better at those as the day went on, and my preceptor kind of caught on to that and kind of let me just do my own thing, which is really nice. I'm glad I kind of built that level of trust with that particular preceptor. So that was that day. What else? That day, yeah. So ones that I can't name the procedure because they're a little bit more specific. This day I only did 2 procedures. They were longer procedures. And these ones, we didn't run gas, but we also didn't run, or we did run a little bit of gas, but not true TIVAs either. So that was pretty interesting. These ones were prone position, which had a whole host of other things to consider, and thankfully that this location does have the prone view, so I was able to check on that, which is pretty cool. Definitely higher acuity cases, nothing super crazy, but definitely it was my first time doing these types of cases, so I was a little bit, I hate to say I was a little sketched out by it, but I was a little bit more hesitant. Got better at IVs. Got 2 practices in that day, which was pretty cool. Got them both. Very happy about that. Did those while the patient was asleep. So, if I did botch it, it's, they can't complain. And they're already anesthetized, is what I'm saying. And I'm not saying, like, oh, it's fine to, hurt a patient while they're asleep. I'm saying it's, what I'm saying. I'm oversimplifying or overclarifying. So that was a very interesting day. I think at the end of the day, or overall, it was a good day. Learned a good bit. Did some things that were outside my comfort zone, which is always good to do under the supervision of somebody who is smarter than you. So that was a pretty interesting day. And then there was, if I had to guess, yeah. And then a different day, got to watch the robot again. Pretty cool. Again, not going to say the procedure, but the robot's pretty cool. And if you know anesthesia, you know that adds in some other layers that we have to consider, like profound neuromuscular block and things like that. So pretty cool to get to see that and play around with that again. I'd say play around with it like I was the one operating the robot. It'd be really cool to play with. I don't think it will ever happen. But if there's, whatever hospital I'm at, if there's a day where they're like, all right, we've got the robot all set up and, anybody can come and play with it, under, like, the supervision, that'd be so fun to, like, play with. I desperately want to do that, but I don't think I'm going to be in a position to. But, man, if I get the opportunity, I'm jumping on it to play with that robot. It's so cool. Anyway, I got to watch that and, perform the anesthesia for that case, obviously. I am getting better at intubations. The location I'm currently at, the location that I'm currently at mainly uses McGraths as opposed to DLing. So my DL skills might get a little bit rusty, which is ironic because at my last clinical site, I was started out on McGraths, and then I transitioned into DLs as I got more comfortable, and would just have the McGrath as a backup. And now it's basically you're just McGrathing, and DL is just kind of there as a backup. So right as I was getting more comfortable with DL, it's basically not doing that anymore. I still could if I talked to the preceptor and established a level of like comfort, but is what it is. I'll practice DL at some point. I still have never used a Miller blade. I want to get on that, but from what I've heard, a lot of preceptors don't typically like newer students using Millers, as there's a higher chance of dental damage. But something to consider. Placed another LMA. That one we did have difficulty with. Talked with the preceptor after. We kind of not like decompressed, but we, talked it out and went over what went right, what went wrong, things like that. It was a success. Patient's fine. I'm just a little bit hesitant on doing certain things. Previous rotation site almost never did LMAs. And this location tends to lean more into LMAs, so I'm going to have to build up that familiarity. I just don't currently have it, thus my hesitation. So that is that aspect of things. And then there was also an eye gel, which, depending on who you ask, is either easier or harder. It's more rigid, but in that sense, there's less that can go wrong, but it is trickier in some ways. It's going to depend on who you ask. The two that I have, well, I guess it's technically been 3. No, really 2, 3. Either way, the ones that I've placed, I've never placed a traditional or an original LMA, only the eye gels. So that comfort might come in a little bit later. Another intubation on that one that I got. That was the first time I've ever seen that case, and that was the first time my preceptor had ever seen that case, which was pretty interesting. Trying to think of what I can and can't say for that case, because it's another one that's kind of specific. I think I just have to leave it at that. My preceptor and I formed a pretty good plan for that. The attending wanted to use paralytic, however, we were hesitant to given the patient, and we kind of discussed ways to avoid having to give paralytic, and it ended up working out quite well for us, and we didn't have to give any. We gave the succinylcholine for the induction. However, beyond that, we got away with giving no rock and no follow-up doses of anything. So, pretty happy with that. I think that's about all I can say about that case. It was pretty interesting. Yeah, I gotta leave it at that. And then we got moved to the endoscopy room. We were doing more uppers, and then we had one that went very wrong. I'm trying to be candid about this because it did happen, and this is pretty fresh on my mind, seeing as this happened yesterday. Good outcome for the patient, thankfully, but there was quite a desaturation event that happened. Looking back on it, there wasn't a huge amount that we as anesthesia providers could have done. Our attending was in the room when it happened. So that kind of, if you know, that kind of tells you about when it happened. And good outcome for the patient, I'll say that, but it was definitely a shaky moment. Yeah, pretty interesting. Learned a lot, but not something I want to put out there on the internet out of respect for the patient, for my preceptor, for everybody else involved as well. But good patient outcome, and I will leave it at that. So that was about all the clinical stuff I have done. Yeah, So then getting on to more exciting stuff and less of that. White coat is coming up, and so is... Ooh, I'm really dark. That's not helping. White coat is coming up, and so is new student orientation. So, oh, that's gonna suck. Really looking forward to meeting some of you guys. I know some of the students have found my channel, which is pretty cool. So really looking forward to seeing the newcomers come in. I am giving a speech at the White Coat, which is going to be not like my nightmare, but not something I'm incredibly happy I have to do. But, you know, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to kind of pass on a little bit of knowledge and give some friendly words of advice before everything kicks off for you guys. So, it'll be interesting. I remember very little about my White Coat ceremony when I was there, purely because I was so panicked and just, you know, I had a bunch of anxiety for it. Like, I remember running, wasn't late, but I had planned extra time, and then because of the traffic lights and the bridges, I ended up having 0 spare time, which I do not do well with, and that was a nightmare to deal with. But all's well that ends well. It was a good day when I was doing it. You know, got to meet everybody. I mean, it was crazy. So I'm looking forward to being on the other end of it, and I know that the incoming students are going to have a good day. So I'm not trying to scare any of you guys. It's going to be a good day. It's just that I did poorly on it when it was my turn to do it. So it's a fun day. It's just an awkward day because you don't know any of your classmates. But you guys will with time. It takes a few weeks, obviously, but before you know it, you'll be buddy-buddy with everybody. So, and then you guys have orientation after that, which should be pretty fun. I'll be helping out with the orientation as well. I don't know if you guys have your orientation schedule yet, but I got it. So I can tell you what we'll be doing to help you guys. Let me find it real quick. I'm pulling up the schedule, which I hope you guys have already been sent. If you guys haven't been sent this yet, let me know and I'll see if I can get this to you. Yeah, it looks about right to everything that we did. And then, so we'll be coming in around lunchtime, me and some classmates to help out with the campus tour. So we will be taking you guys all around. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys already did that if you went to the extravaganza and you know exactly what I'm talking about. And maybe even during your interview as well. I got very lost. I didn't figure out my way around campus for a little while, but I'm directionally challenged, so that kind of checks out. But yeah, we'll be coming to hang out with that. And it looks like there's also going to be a lunch going on, and some of us might choose to stay. I'm thinking I'm going to try to stay and just hang out with you guys. So that'll be pretty fun. And looking forward to helping out with that and meeting all of you. So if you watch the videos and you know me and I don't know you yet, but I'm going to see you, feel free to come up and say hi. I don't mind saying hi to new people, especially if, you know, you guys have been watching, because that's why I do this. You know, I do this because I wish I had these videos when I was starting out, and so I've wanted to make them for you guys. In fact, my very first video was talking about the white coat ceremony and all of that. Or like my first one in this series was talking about that. So feel free to come up, say hi. You know, no worries. You're gonna have to introduce yourself. You know me, but I don't know you, and that's perfectly fine. Just come up, introduce yourself. And if you don't want to, then don't. That's perfectly fine too. But show you around campus and everything. It'll be a fun day for that one as well. I don't know when y'all's first day of class is. I don't even know if y'all have gotten your schedule yet. We haven't gotten ours. If we haven't gotten ours, y'all probably haven't gotten yours. I think I heard you guys are getting yours on your orientation day. And that's when we got ours too. So don't feel like you're getting the short end of that stick. That's when we got ours. So how long is that? About 30 minutes. Well, I'll go ahead and wrap this video up here. To conclude, finals always suck, but if you plan ahead, they suck less because you actually get to go to sleep. Clinicals can be very hard and very stressful. Having a good way to decompress is very good. Lean on the support of those around you. White coat, look forward to seeing you guys. Same for the orientation. Those of you who will be there, look forward to seeing you. Feel free to come say hi. And on that note, I'll go ahead and end this video here. So, feel free to reach out to me in the YouTube comments or on Instagram at my CAA Journey. No spaces, no capitals. That went right in my eye. And other than that, I will catch you in the next one. So, take care.